Hello, welcome back to Battle Brothers. I'm Jade Starr, joined as always by my co-host.
Mr. Fahrenheit.
And we're here at the Tomb of Many Crows to actually get our contract done with, now that Fuck City has left us alone.
Ancient auxiliaries. Finally, something other than bandits or brigands.
Yeah. Although, honestly, I think I would have preferred brigand thugs to these guys. Fighting undead carries a couple of unique challenges. The first and most obvious ones are that they do not care about fatigue, and they do not care about morale.
Probably don't care much about arrows either.
Yes. Right, that's the other good one. They really do not care about ranged attacks. I think Mr. Yar will demonstrate that sooner or later here. But also, they are resistant to piercing attacks. So spears are also less effective. Not as impotent as ranged attacks are against them, but we'll be doing noticeably less damage with our spears as opposed to the guys that have axes.
Still, spear wall is a good opening move.
I tend to put spearmen on my flanks to just kind of try to funnel the enemy towards the center. And there we are. Mr. Yar hit for 2 damage with that crossbow bolt. Not worth it. Auxiliaries are usually a bit of a pain in the ass because they have good shields. And since they don't care about fatigue, they tend to constantly keep their shields up, like that one and that one. And it makes them very hard to hit sometimes. On the positive side of things, just about everybody has an axe. The other positive is that none of them are wearing body armor, so if we can get around the shield, they die pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a good hit to start with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't at least these type of undead tend to stay in formation?
These undead love to stay in formation. We haven't seen their tougher brothers yet, but there's Ancient Auxiliary, and then there's Ancient Legionnaires, and I think there's Ancient Honor Guard. And if the word Legionnaire didn't tip you off, yeah, those kinds of Legionnaires. They will absolutely form a battle line of a bunch of frontliners with big shields in the front, and then have pikemen behind them to stab you. Which is a tactic I'm about to employ with Mr. Yar, although it's a much shittier version because he's just got a pitchfork. So, rather than try to just, I don't know, mildly inconvenience them with ranged fire, Mr. Yar has a pitchfork now and can try to stab over the shoulders of our front line and hit the enemy.
You've already covered this in the thread, but this is sort of something that developed for your ranged attackers based on the older versions where they didn't have the 2-tile rule in place where you could safely shoot over an adjacent friendly.
Right, this was my solution to a problem that no longer exists. Previously, shooting over your guys with the 2-tile rule was dangerous. It is no longer the case because the developers had enough fan feedback and made the call that we'll keep archers useful at 2 tiles. That didn't happen until very recently, at least probably in the final 1.0 release of the game, and I played a lot of early access. So my solution was to give all of my archers polearms, and then have them, stab people from the back row.
Well, weapon diversity is still a good idea. I mean, as demonstrated, if you could have swapped your spears for a bunch of swords or axes, you would have an even easier time against these auxiliaries.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I find that polearms do more damage per hit than their equivalent ranged weapons. Like, at tier 1, we'll call it, pitchforks do the same damage as a light crossbow or a short bow. At tier 2, a billhook is going to do more damage than a hunting bow or a regular crossbow. And at tier 3, a pike is going to do significantly more damage than a warbow or heavy crossbow.
Yeah, but you still have the drawback of you have to worry about making sure that you've got some melee skill for them to hit with in the first place.
That is a consideration, yeah, but if you can keep your archers out of danger, your typical skill ups for an archer, at least for my archers, are going to be melee attack, and ranged defense up to a point, and then that third point goes elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it does require more skill investment to do what I'm proposing to do with Mr. Yar, but I feel like it pays off. And we got out of this with only light injuries.
Well, there was only 4 of them.
Yeah, thankfully there was only 4 of them. If there was 8 of them, this would have really sucked. And we're going to steal one of their helmets. That's going to be our first, like, actual heavy piece of equipment for the entire company.